What happens when 4 friends walk past the cemetery late at night and one of them notices the dead have started to rise? Well, you're about to find out. Only this particular group of friends happens to include a Chiefs fan, a Raiders fan, a Broncos fan, and oh yes, apparently they do exist, a Chargers fan. And only one of them will survive. And I know what you KC fans out there are thinking. What kind of self-respecting Chiefs fan would hang out with that crowd? And to that I would say, you did get embarrassed in the Super Bowl, maybe humble pie should be on the menu this year. Now, any good zombie story has a reason for the outbreak, typically something cooked up in a lab. But we're not going that route. Now, if you're familiar with the Demonverse, you already know this is a multiversal plane where magic does exist. And someone, somewhere, just screwed up big time. Think of this place like the Twilight Zone meets every horror and superhero movie you've ever seen meets the NFL. What about Harry Potter? Okay, Josh, if Harry Potter ever had a run-in with Art the Clown in this universe, he would wish Voldemort had killed him as a baby. Now, these 4 characters, after a night out celebrating Christopher the Chargers fan's 27th birthday, are walking home after hours, cutting through their usual shortcut past Shady Hollow Cemetery. That's when Amy, the Raiders fan, spots something moving in the shadows beyond the wrought iron fence. She slows her pace, squints in the dark, but doesn't say anything just yet. A short distance up ahead, Lewis, the Broncos fan, is in a heated debate with Christopher the Chargers fan. He is mid-rant, claiming Sean Payton finally has his Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara in Denver. Christopher laughs, harder than he probably should. Calling Bo Nix and RJ Harvey, Brees, and Kamara is worse than when Andy Reid said Clyde Edwards-Helaire was better than Brian Westbrook, he says. Mark, the Chiefs fan, just glares at him and says nothing. That's when Amy speaks up. She's stopped now. Her eyes are locked on the darkness beyond the fence. Guys, I think there's a kid in there. Christopher looks back, on the heels of landing a well-timed jab about how thankful he is that the Chiefs let Ladd McConkey fall to the Chargers in the 2024 draft. Did you say a kid? He asks. Amy nods and says, it looks like a little girl. The others join her at the fence. Mark calls out, "Hey, you okay in there?" What comes back is a slow, drawn-out moan. She sounds hurt, Amy says, her voice tightening into a panic. We need to get inside. That's when Christopher backs up, hands half raised like he's trying to slow time. You want to head into a dark cemetery in the middle of the night because you see someone moving around, he says. If you guys would just watch horror movies like I tell you to, then this wouldn't even be a discussion. Amy fires back, "This is not a horror movie, idiot," and that's when it happens. A hand snatches through the bars and grabs Amy by the hair. It pulls her violently, slamming her head into the cold metal of the fence. Her scream rips through the night. The man holding her stares at them wildly, his skin sickly and pale. His jaws open and snap shut just inches from Amy's ear. The others move fast. Lewis steps back and stomps on the arm as hard as he can. There's a crack, and the man's wrist folds backwards with a wet snap. It tears away from his arm and slaps dully against the pavement. Mark reaches down and grabs the severed hand. The flesh is soft and cold. The smell hits him and he covers his mouth, dropping it without a word. When they all look up, the man is still standing at the gate. His clothing is stained and tattered. There's a hole where his cheek should be, giving him a sick, grinning appearance. His eyes are locked on them as he reaches through the bars with the other hand, drooling and growling like a rabid animal. And then, behind him, there's movement. The little girl, the one Amy saw. She's walking forward slowly, but she's not alone. More figures emerge behind her, and then more behind them. Her small frame gets swallowed up by a sea of others, taller, twitching, moaning, stumbling. There could be dozens. Maybe hundreds. 4 of them stand shoulder to shoulder, staring into the dark. Mark swallows hard. "Oh my God," he says. Whoa, we are in the thick of it now, aren't we, Josh? What is your #1 zombie movie ever? Well, Night of the Living Dead because it's the original zombie movie, but Train to Busan has to be a close second. Isn't that the movie that made you cry? Okay, Josh, I never cried. I had allergies, and then the fizz from my kombucha. You know what? I don't have to explain myself to you. Just cue Dave the narrator.
Train to Busan is a South Korean horror film about a father and his young daughter who board a high-speed train during the outbreak of a sudden zombie apocalypse. As the infection spreads rapidly through the train cars, a group of passengers must fight to survive while grappling with fear, sacrifice, and human nature. It's brutal, fast, and somehow still heartbreaking.
The 4 friends don't run at first. They just stare, frozen, as the dead shuffle towards the wrought iron fence. As Lewis scans the street, he sees more of them spilling in from the sides. They're about to be surrounded, and that's when he spots the cemetery entrance up ahead. "Run," he says. "Stay close." As they squeeze through the gate, Lewis shouts. The other end opens up to Jane Street. The police station's right there. We have to move. As they charge through the cemetery, up ahead, more figures stagger into view. Another horde. This one seems bigger than before. The gap is closing in again. Mark scans the area. His eyes lock onto a maintenance shed near the far wall. "There," he says. They sprint. Christopher and Lewis crash through the door first. Amy stumbles in after them. But before Mark could get there, one of the dead lurches in front of him, blocking his path. No, Lewis calls out. Come on! Mark looks at him and smirks. I'll draw them off, he says, then takes off running. Lewis tries to follow, but Christopher yanks him back by the collar, slamming him to the ground. He glances out the door and sees the dead swarming Mark in the distance. He grits his teeth and slams the door shut. A moment later, a sickening scream echoes outside. Then silence. Lewis pounds the wall. We could have saved him. We could have pulled him in. Christopher stares at the floor, his voice barely holding together. If we tried, we'd all be dead. Mark knew that. There's a slight pause before Christopher continues. And my last words to him were about Lad McConkey. He looks over at Amy, who is slumped against the wall. Her eyes are glassy. Her breathing is shallow. I told him Taylor Swift should buy the team from the Hunt family and call it Kelsey Dumpster Fire. Then there's a flicker of a smile as she adds, I guess you had to be there. Christopher squints and frowns. Taylor Swift doesn't have the money to buy the Chiefs. Lewis snaps at him. Dude, shut up. There's something wrong with her. Just then, Amy winces and slides to the floor. Lewis rushes to her side and crouches beside her. Amy, are you okay? I don't feel good, she slurs. I'm dizzy. Christopher pulls out his phone. We need to call someone. And that's when he notices there's no service. Of course, leave it to Shady Hollow to be the one cemetery Verizon doesn't feel the need to cover. That's when Lewis sees it. Blood seeping through Amy's sleeve. He rolls it back gently and sees teeth marks in her arm. She's bitten, he says. Christopher turns. Okay, let's just calm down. Maybe this is not like the movies. Maybe this doesn't mean she's infected. Lewis gently taps Amy's cheek. Hey, Amy, talk to me. Her eyes are closed and her lips are twitching. Then there's a slow gurgling sound. Then, her eyes snap open. She looks at Lewis and she snarls. Oh man, it looks like we lost Amy, Josh. Why are you so surprised? Aren't you the one who wrote this? Okay, Josh, obviously I'm playing it up for the people watching. You really need to learn about audience retention. We're going to take a quick break as we check in with NFL High, where Mr. Demonverse hands out his 2025 record predictions for the AFC West. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Really, Josh? We just lost Amy, and all you care about are channel metrics? You really are a monster. Today we're handing out record predictions for the AFC West, and we'll start with the Los Angeles Chargers, who are always a mystery to me. You and every one of our fans, too. Wait, you actually have fans? Okay, that joke is older than Pete Carroll. You can call Pete Carroll old, but he'd still kick Jim Harbaugh's ass. He's right, Los Angeles. In a Carroll versus Harbaugh main event, my money's on Carroll. What if it's Hell in a Cell? Especially if it's Hell in a Cell. I've got you at 11 wins, provided Justin Herbert got all the turnovers out of his system in your last playoff game. We can only hope. Vegas, you seem to be on the right track for a change. Well, things are different now. There's a new sheriff in town. Oh, nice. So does that mean most of your fans are behind bars where they belong now? Oh, you were so lucky I'm still mourning Amy's recent zombification, or you'd be in a world of pain right now. To be fair, Vegas, when you said sheriff, you kind of set yourself up for that whole behind bars thing. I've got you at 7 wins. Denver, I've got you at 12 wins. Feels a little light considering our schedule, but we'll take it as long as you have us finishing ahead of Kansas City.
Fool! Believing you can claim the AFC West throne from the Red Queen's army. I curse you!
Okay, I know you got this whole weird medieval gimmick going on right now, but you don't actually have the power to curse anyone.
Oh, but I do. And therefore I just did. I cursed you!
Okay, you're cursing me with your spit spray. You think maybe you could reel that in? Enough, the two of you. Kansas City, I'm tempted to give you the division again because, well, you're you. But with all your question marks on the offensive line, and probably to my own detriment, I'm going to pull back a little bit and give you 11 wins.
The Red Queen will demand your head once she hears of this.
Well, just tell her to tune into my playoff and Super Bowl predictions after I wrap up the divisions, and maybe that'll convince her to stay my execution.
The Red Queen stays no one's execution.
Wait, you guys actually hold executions?
Actually, it's more of a figure of speech, really.
Weak, dude. Vegas, that's the tension. You know, now that I think about it, Josh, I bet you cried during Train to Busan, too. Too? So you admit that you did cry. Why are you the way that you are?
And so the story continues.
Chaos erupts inside the shed. Snarling, shouting. Amy lunges. Lewis barely gets his forearm into her throat, holding her back with everything he has. Christopher spots a shovel against the wall and he grabs it. Hang on, he yells, and then he swings. It smashes into Lewis's shoulder. He howls. Ow! Swing at her, not me! Sorry, Christopher says. Resetting. Lewis groans. Your aim is as bad as Justin Herbert's. That stops Christopher cold. Hey, his numbers were great all season. He has one bad playoff game and suddenly everybody... Lewis cuts him off. Get her off of me! Christopher snaps back to the moment. Right, sorry. And this time when he swings the shovel, it slams against Amy's forehead. She crumples to her back, but instantly she flips around. and skitters like a spider across the ground. She springs forward and lunges at Christopher this time, her jaws snapping. Lewis dives in, wrapping his arm around her neck in a rear naked choke. The three of them spin wildly until Christopher breaks free and stumbles back. She's so fast and strong, Lewis yells, breathless. Christopher agrees. Yeah, kind of like those zombies from Dawn of the Dead. The other ones don't seem like this. The problem I had with that movie, Lewis interrupts him again. Shut up and do something. Christopher nods. Right. You push her forward and I'll swing. Lewis locks eyes with him. We'll do it on 3. Christopher raises the shovel. He counts. 1, 2. Lewis shoves Amy hard, but Christopher isn't ready. He sidesteps and shoulder checks Amy hard from behind. She crashes through the shed doors and spills out into the night. The boys stare out after her. I said on 3, Christopher says. That was on 3, Lewis argues. You said 1 and 2 and I pushed on 3. You were supposed to wait for me to say 3 and then push, Christopher snaps back. A low moan echoes outside and that brings them back to reality. The herd has turned and dozens of dead eyes lock on the shed. Amy rises. Her gaze never leaves them. And she steps forward. But then, a blaring horn and headlights. A massive black pickup truck barrels through the graveyard like a wrecking ball. Amy and the rest of the herd go flying like bowling pins hit by a freight train. The truck screeches to a stop. The driver's side door flies open. Let's go, a voice yells. Mark? Christopher squints. We thought you were... Lewis shoves him forward and grabs a pickaxe. Shut up and grab your shovel. Ask questions later. They charge out, swinging and smashing their way forward as the dead closes in again. Mark grabs a crowbar from the truck's cabin and starts swatting away the creatures as they swarm the vehicle. Finally, Christopher and Lewis reach the truck and dive inside. Doors slam. And then silence. Mark breathes hard. Wait a second. Where's Amy? But before any of them can answer, Amy's bloodied face smacks into the windshield. She's snarling, clawing. Mark stares in shock. His eyes go glassy for a second. Equal parts rage and heartbreak. Lewis stares along with him. At least she'll never have to sit through another Raiders collapse, he says. Honestly, Christopher adds, this might be for the best. Mark nods, collects himself, and then throws the truck into gear. They drive. And just like that, a Chiefs fan comes along and saves the day. And you all call me a Chiefs hater. Wait a minute, you said earlier that only 1 survives, but 3 of them made it. No, they didn't. I was going to show an epic mid-credit scene where we learned that Christopher and Lewis were both bitten during that last fight, and now Mark unfortunately has to put them down. But of course you had to open your mouth, and now it's ruined for everyone. You still could have done that and not answered me. Just tell Dave to prepare them for what's coming. And why is the Roger Goodell painting upside down?
Tune in next week to see which NFC West fanbase will survive a pack of West Coast vampires in a Twilight meets Lost Boys scenario you will not want to miss.